He knows that the trailer is dragging and that it's not driving and not pulling appropriately. And he pulls into a rest area. As he gets out to go repair the trailer and look at it, the thing is really cocked to the side and the wheel is totally burned off. And he goes to replace the wheel. Well, just a little bit behind him, up against one of the wood posts in the rest area, was this trooper, Michigan State Police trooper. It turns out that he had been dragged for 3.5 miles.
Oh my gosh! Hi everybody, this is Jon Marko. Welcome to another exciting episode of Cases Gone Wild. And we have a wild west show for you today with one of my good friends and colleagues, Neil Rockind, who also is known as the King of the Killer Cross. And you're going to be hearing from Neil in just a minute. Thanks for tuning in. If you like us, please share us with your friends, family. You can find us on all your major platforms, and also know we are filming. We dressed up, and Neil's a handsome guy, so watch us on our YouTube channel where you can see live video of today's podcast. I'll get right into it on today's episode. Neil, thanks for coming on the show, man. You're the man.
Great to be here, John. I don't know about the handsome guy thing, but I'll take it.
You're a good-looking guy.
At my age, I'll take any compliment I can get, even ones that aren't deserved. I'll take them.
You deserve every bit of it.
Thank you.
Neil is an awesome attorney. He focuses in criminal defense, right? Is that 100% of your practice?
Yes.
100% criminal defense. And I always love criminal defense guys because they have some of the wildest cases out there. They got people breaking the law. There's always cops that are involved, prosecutors, government. You get a little bit of everything in some of these wild stories. And I understand you brought some very wild stories with us today, to share with us today. You were a graduate of Wayne State Law School in 1993. You worked at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. A lot of criminal defense attorneys start off doing some prosecution, I find sometimes, and then they make the switch. What made you switch to criminal defense?
So I was never one of those guys that had like prosecution in my bones.
Yeah.
There are people they go into the prosecutor's office, and God bless them, but they are like, that's their calling. That was never my calling. That was never for me. I was in the prosecutor's office for really one particular reason. A friend of my father's said to me, I kept applying to all these big jobs when I was in law school, all the big law firms. And I went in with my dark blue suit. This one is way too light for that.
Yeah.
And a white shirt and a red, like,
all the
preppy
conservative,
tie,
that's right.
And tie shoes, like I can't wear the cool shoes like you're wearing.
Yeah.
You got to have like the Oxford tie shoes. And I walk in and I immediately was like, yes, I want to be a trial lawyer, and I'm going to be a great trial lawyer in your firm. I know it. I tried every variation of that with every big firm, and they looked at me like,
see you later. Dude, it is so funny, Neil, that you say that, because when I share that same story. When I graduated, I worked so hard, and you're burdened by, I don't know about you, I was burdened by debt, and it was like, let's get, the silk stocking job where you make a lot of money starting out at a big defense firm or one of these big corporate firms. And I said the same thing when I went to all these on-campus interviews. Well, what do you want to do? I want to be a trial lawyer.
Right.
I want to be a trial lawyer. And
right.
I was too stupid, young and dumb, to know that was not what you're supposed to say, but it was my truth.
You're supposed to say, I'll sit there and grind. I'll be there at 2 a.m. and I'll leave there at midnight, and I won't have a single mistake in any brief I write.
That's right. I want to work for a big corporation.
I will pee in you give me a catheter, I won't leave my desk. I mean, that's
right.
what they want.
I will go through piles of documents and never go into a courtroom to help defend the chemical company. So that's what they want to hear.
And so I did that. And I kept getting frustrated because I got no offers.
Yeah.
And thank goodness things happened at the time. I was frustrated, but things happen for a reason.
They do happen for a reason.
And then a good friend of my father's said to me, listen, can I give you a tip? You may end up being a great trial lawyer, but no one's going to hire you because you believe you're going to be a good trial lawyer. When you're ready to be a trial lawyer in a firm, you need to know what you're doing in court. You need to not just have the moxie and the cojones, but you have to know what it means.
The experience.
Exactly. Go get trial experience. Go get your chops at the prosecutor's office or get them at a defender's office. And so I applied for a job at the prosecutor's office and I got it. And I ate up every opportunity I could get. I looked for every big opportunity that I could get in the prosecutor's office to learn how to be a trial lawyer. That's why I was a prosecutor. And that's why I knew, just like a piece of gum, you chew some gum and you had your piece of gum has a last chew. I knew when I had sort of reached the end of my time in the prosecutor's office, and then I was looking. I loved the defense lawyers, man. Even John, I loved guys like you. I would go in on Wednesdays and watch the motion call and see the big swinging dick plaintiffs lawyers walk in there, and the criminal defense lawyers walk in there, and they're all
nice
like
suits.
And we're going out for lunch after, and we're going to go have a bourbon, or we're going to go have wine, and we're doing this and that. And I'm reading three books, and I loved those guys and ladies. I thought they were awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I want to be like those guys who come in there, one person against the powers that be.
That's right.
And just can actually like change the course of someone's life. I love that.
And I think, for us, you end up where you need to be.
Exactly.
Right. And sometimes you have to go through those experiences. But, for example, I started off, I was a law clerk, and I just knew after being a law clerk, which was a great gig, I would clerk for the Michigan Supreme Court. I mean, people were lining up to get that job. But it wasn't in my heart, right? Because I wanted to be a trial lawyer. But those experiences, you learn a lot from them, and then you can move on and you can take the good, and you have to learn. So if you're out there, you follow your heart, right? And you'll get to where you need to be, which is why you have earned the moniker the Rock-weiler. You're one of the most recognized criminal defense lawyers in Michigan. You are known for your cross-examination. And by the way, check out Cases Gone Wild is the best podcast in the world. But the second best is Neil Rockind's own. It's called Killer Cross. Are you still doing that
Killer
podcast?
Cross-examination, yes.
Yeah, so check it out, guys out there, all my fans, because it's a great podcast that you should also check out. I had the honor of coming on. And you've done all kind of high-profile and complex cases, including you did a Kevorkian case, I understand.
I did.
Jack Kevorkian, famous case, and you've done all kinds of crazy cases. You've represented celebrities and athletes, and Eminem's wife, and Todd Bertuzzi, who's a retired hockey player with the Wings. And I mean, the list goes on and on. Go to Neil's website if you want to learn more. But let's get right into it, Neil. So tell us about some of the craziest, wild, wiki wild cases that you've done.
Okay, so in criminal defense, we see all kinds of wild stuff, right? I mean, it's like the Wild West.
Yeah.
And some of the cases that I get in, there you can't even anticipate like the craziness that's going to follow.
Right.
You just can't possibly. You walk in, you're like, I'm prepared for crazy, and then you get 8 levels of crazy.
Yeah.
So there's this case. So we had a theme in a case. As you know, one of the most important themes in a case is one of the most important things to do in a case is you got to have a theme.
Right,
A story. You got to be able to have some way to kind of, to encapsulate the case in one sentence or two. And there's a case that we began to talk about within my office that we ended up trying, which is called the police got caught without their drawers.
Oh,
and
wow.
Drawers were always synonymous with, like underwear and got caught with their pants down or their drawers down.
Yeah.
So this is a case where the police executed a warrant on our client's mother's house in Detroit. And they execute the search warrant.
Like a search warrant? So
search warrant.
Busting in the house to search for stuff. Okay.
And they bust in the house. And so the case starts off with a farce because the officer who they conduct surveillance, they say, and the surveillance that they say that they conducted is from down the street. Well, first of all, in this neighborhood, there was no way that there's a guy in an unmarked car sitting there in a parking lot staring at a house for any more than a couple seconds. People would have been
would have known.
Would have looked out the front window and like, who's that down there?
They would have stuck out like a sore thumb,
Absolutely.
Right? And in order to get a warrant, they have to have a basis to get a warrant. So are you saying that the police said, look, we basically surveilled the house. We
watched the house. We watched people come to the front door. We watched what we believed were hand-to-hand drug transactions. Only here's the kicker. That front door was never used as a front door because they had a small living room. And so as opposed to using the front door, they had the front door closed and they had furniture that was up against the front door. So you couldn't open and close the front door. The officer claimed that that's what he saw. We had family members and neighbors and people who lived in that block for 20 years. It was like, no, they never used the front door. And we have pictures of the inside of the house that showed where the couches were. And we have a hearing where you can contest the validity of the warrant called a Frank's hearing.
Say it was a bad warrant.
Saying it was a bad warrant.
This happens.
This happens regularly.
Either intentionally or by mistake, right? You know?
So if an officer intentionally lies in an affidavit in support of a search warrant, the warrant can be thrown out. If an officer actually engages in what's called reckless disregard for the truth of what he said, so just turns a blind eye to whether what he said
just
is
says
true
whatever, I'm going to write this.
I just want the warrant, I'm going to get it. I saw the guy, but there was no guy there. Or I saw the lights on and there were no lights. So we made this argument, and the judge is sitting there like she's putting almost like pencils in her hair, trying to think of what to do with this case. She takes a break, and she comes back and she goes, "It's a tough call. It's like a coin toss for me, and I'm gonna let the search warrant stand." We're like, "Wow,
what?
Wow!"
But would you say that most judges err on the side of the police?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. People hate crime. Judges. I think that judges, when they run for re-election, again, I'm not saying that this to be jaded or overly jaded, but have you ever seen a picture with a judicial candidate or a political candidate standing in front of a bunch of sheriffs and a bunch of police officers?
All the time.
And they brag
Law
about
and orders, like the biggest thing.
Big. And they brag about having like the endorsement of some police union or something, right?
Right.
You ever seen a judge stand there and say, "Behind me are a bunch of crooks and criminals that I let go, and here are their lawyers left and right. Here are their sleazy lawyers that I've got, And think about Law and Order. Think about the TV shows and how TV shows portray criminal defense lawyers. They're, Law and Order, the great sound. They portray prosecutors as the good guys and the police officers as the good guys. And the defense lawyers as, guys come with the long hair and the slick back. They're trying to...
Hey, don't mess with the long hair, baby. Well, civil lawyers, we can get away with it a little easier. Yeah.
So I found that most judges are. Now, again, I know that. And as a good friend of mine, Jose Baez once said, I expect to get nothing from the trial judge. If you go in thinking you're not going to get any help, then guess what? You can't be disappointed.
That's right.
So judge ruled against us in this case, and we had something up our sleeve. They had claimed...
So the judge said, even though this warrant smells fishy...
Even though it's a coin toss.
Yeah. I'm gonna let them keep this warrant.
Yeah. Correct.
Wow.
We go to trial in the case, and get this. So the police they search the house. It's a bungalow. They claim my client is coming out of the shower with a towel on, walking downstairs. Now, a bungalow...
What was he charged with, by the way?
Possession with intent to deliver a large amount of drugs and felony firearm, which would put him in prison for a mandatory 2 years.
Wow.
No parole,
so very
probation.
Serious.
Serious. He was looking at a long time in prison. Long time. They go in the house. Now, the officers who search the bedroom it's a bungalow. So there's only one room upstairs, right? Picture a bungalow.
Yeah. One big room.
One big room.
On the second floor.
Second floor.
Right.
And the stairs lead right into the room. No bathroom upstairs.
Right.
Just a bed and like a crawl space closet.
Yeah.
The officer claims that our client's coming downstairs in a towel and that he's wet from coming out of the shower. There's no shower upstairs. There's no bathroom upstairs. But okay, put that aside. He then goes and he claims on a nightstand, like on a dresser right next to the bed, is a picture of our client and then a picture of our client facing the other way. And in between, on that nightstand, is a gun sandwiched perfectly between the two pictures of himself, just looking just so down at the gun, right? And
wow.
In this drawer, in this nightstand dresser drawer, he opens it up and there's some mail with our client's name on it and that address. And next to that is a big pile of money. And right under that It's a big pile of
Drugs?
of drugs, of cocaine.
So everything was just perfect.
All that was missing, right? All that was missing was the note that said, "This belongs to me."
Yeah. Wow, what an easy case. They didn't even have to go to a different room. It was
no
all
pictures, no photographs.
They didn't take pictures of the
no
evidence?
eyewitness, nothing. The officer seizes it and takes it into custody. Nobody else.
Are they
sees it.
supposed to take pictures nowadays, by the way? Like
They should.
Okay.
But they should be wearing body cam. But some officers don't wear body cam during a search because you can figure.
Are they
out
allowed
why.
to do that? Why don't they make them do that?
They should. Do
I
that.
mean, don't you
should.
think that would keep? Then there's no gray. There's no coin toss or coin toss. It's here. It is.
Well, then you might have a guy looking over there. My body cam is on, and I'm looking right over there, and you can see his hand behind here. You know, kind of. Anyway, they should wear body cams, and they should have somebody come up, and the police should be more accountable during a case than the people that they're investigating.
Agreed.
You want them to be 100% accountable. So, and what's the old saying? Like, trust but verify?
Trust but verify.
Except that we lawyers have a rule, which is distrust. But still verify.
Right.
Like, we don't take anything you're saying at face value.
I am skeptical of everything, including my own clients, until they prove me wrong or I do the discovery to prove it wrong. I question them about everything because the last thing I want is to be caught with my pants down, so to speak,
without your drawers.
On a case without my drawers on. So I always do that.
So
it's even more important in criminal law. Right?
It's important at all of it. Let's just be. It's in every case, whether it's civil or criminal. We have different things at stake, but we're representing people, and those people, when they stand against a large entity, government, insurance company, corporation, the odds are stacked against them already. I don't care what the burden is. I don't care what the burden of proof is.
Yeah, right.
The odds are stacked against them. Right. And the reality is that those companies, those large entities, they have the wherewithal, they have the ability to do things right. So just for crying out loud, just do them right.
Right.
And if you don't have the case, just say you don't have the case. Do you know how much that enhances? If Jon Marko turns down a case and says, you know what, I don't see the liability here. I don't see the damages here. Or my client lied and I'm not comfortable, or you lied to me during the guess what? The next case you take where you can look someone in the eye and say, I turn cases away. If they don't meet the Jon Marko law smell test or blush test, that means that because you've taken this case, that there's some validity to it. Like with the experts that you use. I don't want an expert who comes in and gives me a yes on every case. You want to be able to look at the guy in the eye and say, hey, guess what? The person that I'm using, this person has also turned down many of my
credibility.
cases. So important.
So what happened here?
They open the police. They claim that they found it on this. So I start to cross-examine the police.
So are you in a jury trial?
We're in a trial. Now, we've had a preliminary examination, which for a lot of people is kind of like a mini grand jury or kind of like a mini trial, like a DEP, where I get to cross-examine their witnesses that they call.
Before the trial.
Before the trial. So we get them on paper. And I cross-examine this officer and I ask him, like, so, and you found this in a drawer? Yeah. You found this in a dresser? Yeah. A nightstand? Yeah. It was a wooden nightstand? Yeah. Wooden nightstand with a single drawer? Yes. And you open the drawer on the wooden nightstand? I must have said wooden nightstand like 50 times. You'd have thought I was like an art fan salesman.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, the family had never had in that bedroom wooden nightstands with drawers. They'd only had end tables, like modern with metal legs and glass tops. They never had dressers with drawers.
Yeah.
And when I cross-examine the officer, I keep going over and over about how this is where he found it. And he found it there and he found it in the drawer, all packaged together. And all it was missing was a little bow that said like my so-and-so, you know what I mean? Like, this is mine, don't touch.
My heist stash, yeah.
Right. And I said, and wooden dresser drawers. I says, isn't it true that they've never had wooden nightstands in that house? Isn't it true you're just making that up? And the guy just starts to waffle. I mean, I said, you guys were caught without your drawers.
You said that in front of the jury?
I did. I said it, my opening, closing. And then he talked about it, and I said, and you said that you searched the bathroom. You said that you searched and I'm going on memory here. So I believe that's what I said to him. So, but I'm also telling you that I said, and you searched everywhere for the drugs, right? Everywhere. And you searched the upstairs bathroom, didn't you? And he goes, yeah. Well, I said to him, look at the outside of this house. It's a bungalow.
There is no
No upstairs bathroom. Oh, well, they were taking one in or putting one out, taking one out or putting one in. I'm like, nobody ever takes a bathroom out of a house. You can't remove a bathroom from the upstairs in a house.
Yeah, yeah.
And there would be like a protrusion from the upstairs on the outside of this bungalow. I said, there's not there. What made the case even wilder was that the police, we had a witness who came in and claimed that she was, when they were searching the house, she could see the police through a window. She could see them go into a basement and in the basement reach up in a rafter and find what she said looked like a bag of something that she believed was drugs. She was sitting outside the house looking in. Even wilder was that because everybody believed, the people who were close to this and believed that this was such a shanda, which is the Yiddish word for such a farce, right? That it was so crazy that they would actually accuse this family in these circumstances of this, that they actually had the person whose drugs it was actually came into court, waived his Fifth Amendment right, and testified and said the drugs were mine and they were in the basement. We used the basement. This neighborhood, these people used the basement as like a place to come and watch football and hang out on Saturdays and Sundays and crash. And so we came in here and we've known that, you know, people will come in here and unbeknownst to the owner of the house or his or her son, people would just go in there and they would just stash something.
Yeah, yeah.
How about that?
Wow. So let me ask you that. Not guilty? Or
not guilty. Not only was it not guilty, you ever seen a triple jump? You ever seen a triple jump in the Olympics?
Yeah, yeah.
The craziest like track and field event
yeah.
where the guy runs and he takes like 1, 2, 3 huge steps. When the jury said not guilty, my client, I kid you not, John, he hopped out of court. I've never seen a guy hop out of court like that. He hopped out of court like a triple jump. He was hopping out of court on St. Antoine, which is, you know, where the courthouse is.
Yeah.
And gone.
Hopping all the way home.
Hopping home with his freedom.
But so let me dissect this a little bit. Why did the police not just say it was in the basement, or why? So do you think the police made this up?
I believe that the officers involved made it up.
Okay, why?
And I believe the evidence supported that.
Why?
I can't answer that.
Just to get a guilty?
Well,
I mean, they figured, do they justify
Can I tell
it?
you later? Can I tell you this, which is interesting? So I believe the evidence supported that it was fabricated. And I'll tell you, so I'm careful about that, but that's what I believe the evidence showed.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that one of my associates who I've worked with, you know, for 10 plus years, in the hallway got into an argument, a verbal argument with the officer in charge in the case. Okay. They were arguing with each other because the officer was claiming that he was, you know, guy trying the case with me was actually talking to an investigator that was in the hallway, one of our investigators that was going to testify and was talking about an issue. So the officer claims, like, you know, I can't believe you would call my integrity into question. That's what he said. That officer and another have subsequently been indicted.
No way.
And convicted in federal court, doing 20 plus years. And the guy who actually found, or claims to have found the drugs and the gun and the you know the money in the bedroom upstairs, that officer ended up taking his own life.
No way.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Now it's crazy. You asked about cases gone wild. That's a case gone wild.
That is a case gone wild. Now, and it reminds me of, like, you ever see Training Day?
Mm-hmm.
Or Training Day or The Wire. One of my favorite shows of all time is The Wire on HBO, which is this, like, series. I don't know
great
if you've ever
show.
seen
Yeah,
The
of
Wire.
course. Great show.
They follow, it's like Baltimore police and, like, corruption and stuff. But what do you think? Like, you think that they figure the ends justifies the means? Like,
I can't think like that, so I don't know. I can't begin to get in the minds of we knew that the case was that there was a smell a stanky, rotten smell to that case when we started it. And the client comes and said, you don't understand. There's no way he could have observed somebody. There's no way they could have observed somebody making hand-to-hand transactions in the front door. We're like, okay, why are you so confident? He's like, because we don't use our front door. Here's a picture of the front room.
Yeah.
Like, the door swings in. And in order to allow a front door or a door in a room to swing in, you give up whatever the circumference of the door opening and closing is.
Right.
So they literally had like a couch in that front room, and you couldn't open the front door.
Yeah, it's just
they all went to the side.
It's
it was
just
crazy. Oh my God, it was
crazy. Because it's like, constitutional rights, and you start taking shortcuts. That's bad things can happen.
Oh, this was such a wild case, and I
did
remember.
They charge the person who came in and said those were my drugs?
Nope.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Never.
Because they could have technically,
never.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, they could have, but never.
Wow.
Yep.
That is a case gone wild. Wow, that's interesting. Well, tell me about some of the other cases. I understand you had a case with a state trooper that was an older person. Tell me what happened.
Okay. So this was a case in which a state trooper, young guy, I have nothing against he or his family or anything else. I mean, in many respects, police officers are, they do a critical job. And when there's trouble and we're all running away, they're running towards.
Yeah.
And this officer was riding a motorcycle. And why we have officers still riding motorcycles, I have no idea. But this case involved my client, who was 70 years old, driving a car and pulling a trailer that was hitched to his car. He was going up north and getting onto I-75. And as it turns out, his trailer had a collision with this Michigan State Police trooper on a motorcycle who was
on the highway, on the on-ramp, or what?
Well, as he was getting onto the highway, so he still was on the side road, and entering onto the entrance or the exit, entering onto the entrance ramp to get onto the merge ramp to get onto the highway
to go on 75 north.
To go on 75 north, and the trooper, as it turns out, this is so wild. I remember the case like it was yesterday. The trooper's motorcycle hits part of the trailer. Again, this is all we discover later.
Is the cop driving or is he just stationary?
No, the cop is driving
on 75.
No,
on the on-ramp.
They're on a side road like Dixie Highway.
Okay.
The trooper is driving his motorcycle, unbeknownst to our client. My client is driving a car, pulling a trailer. He turns onto I-75 and he hears my client, the 70-year-old, he feels a big bump,
oh no!
And he thinks that the trailer is like hit like a pothole or something, right? And so he's driving along, doesn't hear a yell, no sirens, no flashing lights, no nothing.
Oh no!
Driving onto I-75, and he's driving for about 3.5 miles.
3.5 miles?
3.5 miles. And there are sparks, and the trailer is dragging, and the trailer's dragging on the highway, and there are people that are pulling up next to him and backing off. And he ultimately tries, because it's dark out at night, and it's dark out early in the morning.
Does he see the sparks or no? Eventually,
he knows that the trailer is dragging and that it's not driving and not pulling appropriately, and that he thinks it's sort of kind of listed to the left, like it's off kilter. And he pulls into a rest area and pulls around the rest area. And then, as it turns out, there's kind of like as he gets out to go repair the trailer and look at it, the thing is really cocked to the side and the wheel is totally burned off. And he goes to replace the wheel. Well, just a little bit behind him, up against one of the wood posts in the rest area, was this trooper, Michigan State Police trooper. It turns out that he had been dragged for 3.5 miles.
Oh my gosh!
3.5 miles.
Was he still alive?
I-75. He was still alive.
No way.
He was still alive.
Wait, how? So he was like caught on the trailer?
So they ultimately did reconstruction. The police, because it was involved a trooper, they were able to get every single type of expert. Like you would think the Michigan State Police crime labs, like they just stopped. It seems like they just stopped doing whatever they're doing. You know how when you hear about how it takes the police a while to get the prosecutor or the police a while to get like test results. No, they got everything. You name it, they got it.
Probably wanted to nail this guy to the wall, right?
And correct. And he hits. They do a reconstruction.
Was the guy drunk or anything?
Nope.
No.
Wasn't drunk. Wasn't texting. Hands were at 2 and 10.
Oh my God! Just a
was
horrible.
Driving the speed limit, and the officer ends up hitting the trailer, and he catapults over the trailer. This is what the police ultimately end up surmising, and he gets caught on the arm of the arm and the post of the trailer, and he was dragged. They looked for everything. They looked to see if he was drunk, had he taken medication, was he falling asleep, was he drowsy, was he not paying
negligent,
attention?
right?
Oh, they ultimately did. They accused him of reckless driving causing death. They accused him of leaving.
The cop died?
The cop ended up dying.
How long? Yes. Like, so he was like alive and then died
for about a few hours.
Oh my gosh!
Witnesses. Well, they wanted all over the news. They closed on I-75. They were. I mean,
they were out for blood. I bet too.
And every witness was. I mean, they had witnesses who were coming to the house. Witnesses that ended up claiming that they observed my client on the highway, and they were like, and I kept saying, "Pull over, pull over." And I'm like, well, what did you see? Well, he was pulling something. I said, but you didn't know what it was, right? I said, no, you're on the highway. It's late at night. It's early in the morning. I mean, you know, people get killed on the side of the highway. There are trucks and what's the safest thing you would do? What would you advise like your wife or a loved one to do? Would you advise them to pull over on the side of the road? Well, I'd want to make sure it was safe, right? So if it wasn't safe, it's a judgment call. If it's not safe to pull over on the side of the road, what would you do then? Well, I would try to drive to the nearest exit. Right. How about a rest area? Yeah. Like this rest area. Yes. Which is exactly what my client did.
Yeah. So they didn't see the cop either, the people, like the witnesses?
They did not.
So how was he supposed to see it?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. So did you have to try this case?
We did.
What a hard case to try.
Hard.
You have the police, you have this tragedy. Wow, that's really tough. So what happened?
Such a hard case to try. And everybody kept saying to me beforehand, this is like the 72 election, you know, when everybody kept saying like nobody voted for Nixon, and everybody voted for Nixon. But then in 73, when Nixon wasn't, you know, when he resigned, after that, nobody voted for Nixon. Everybody beforehand was saying to me like, oh my God, they charged that old man? I feel so bad. I'm like, yeah, so here are the facts. What do you think? And I would just, you know, oh, you don't want me on that jury.
Oh,
why?
Wow.
So afterwards,
where was the case
acquitted,
tried, by the way?
Oakland County.
County. Wow.
Afterwards, everybody said to me, almost to a man, they were like, yeah, I never thought they'd get a conviction in that case. I'm like, that's not what you told me, dude.
Yeah.
You kept telling me you didn't want you. I shouldn't have you on that jury. So we had witnesses that in that case, this was one of those cases that's live streamed. We had witnesses in this case where I was like, I kept asking them like, so, you know, your memory, like it doesn't improve over time, obviously. I said, and let's look, and you were so, don't you think that your emotions and the tragedy of this whole thing, because you heard on the radio, you heard about this tragedy on the radio, and you heard one witness actually went to the hospital and was moved by all the big hulking, you know, police officers and sheriffs and troopers that were all crying in the hospital over the loss of their loved one. And I get it. I mean, it's super emotional. A judge or two, I think one for sure, attended the funeral. Like, and I mean, you know, you get judges attending the funeral, right?
So there was a lot of public outcry.
Oh my God. So John, we end up, this witness, this is an example. I said to her, don't you think that your story is kind of like exaggerated and kind of been I'm not saying intentionally, but just been emotions have kind of influenced and your story's kind of grown. Like the fish you caught on the boat was this big, but the fish, when you got to the dock, it was this big. And when you got back to the, you know, to the guys, it was, you know, like it was like a marlin. Because no, I saw what I saw. And I went through, well, your first statement says this. And then your second statement says this. And then your third statement says this. And then you went to talk to the police you went to the hospital and you saw the hospital and you thought, what a tragedy. And then they asked you to write out and you were crying with the troopers and the police officers and you were moved by it. Then you went home and they said, please write out a written statement. and then you wrote out a written statement. You didn't just write it, you typed it out. And let's look here. You started typing, and then by the second page or second paragraph, whatever it was we can see you start typing in all caps. Like when you're typing in all caps, that means that you're angry, like you're emotional, you're intense. I said, and by the time you got to the end of it, look, I said, you were driving. She said, oh, he was speeding. I said, well, how fast were you going? She goes, oh, I don't go over the speed limit. Okay, fair enough. And the speed limit there is X. So you're going below the speed limit? Yeah. I said, when you were behind him, yes. And you were to the side of him, yes. I said, and when you're behind the side of him, at one point you had two choices. You could stay close to him, you could go past him, or you could fall back, right? Yeah. And you fell back. Yes. And I said, so that if he's going the speed limit, and according to you were going under the speed limit, and then you fell back. So you're going the same speed, and then you fell back. That means that he too was going the speed limit. Well, I don't know about that. I said, well, let's just write it out. You're going the speed limit. He's going the same speed. You have to speed up to catch up to him. You're going the speed limit. You fall back. You're going slower than the speed limit. And he maintained the same speed. Therefore, he was going
the speed
limit.
Right. Wow. So did your client testify?
He did not.
Okay. And
I cried when John, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 30 years. I cried when the jury reached its verdict, broke down in tears. The stress of really the stress,
Yeah.
We talk about Jerry Spence used to tell us about, like at one point the client's like ours responsibility.
Yeah.
And you hand
the responsibility to the jury.
But it's like when your kid goes away to school, I was afraid when that jury went out.
Oh my God.
And part of the reason why I was afraid, I loved that jury, but there was one juror, John, that I was deeply afraid of. Juror number 8. I think it was 7, 8. I got to our closing and I kept turning to my peers. I'm like, this juror hates me. She hates me. I can tell she hates me. And I'm sitting there trying to try the case right to her. At the
I
end.
know, but it's always so hard because man, I've been there where you get the look and it's like, oh no.
And it turns out she was our strongest juror.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you talked to him afterwards?
I didn't, but someone, the other lawyer who tried the case with me, Wade Fink, he went back and
Wade
talked.
Fink, great guy.
Yeah, great guy. He was
wow,
very
that's a
helpful in that
crazy.
case.
So the guy was because he would have went to prison.
He would have gone to prison. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a crazy case.
Crazy. And
the family could still get civil justice, right? I'm sure there was a civil suit.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But yeah, you're not part of that.
You want to add something to that, John?
Yeah, yeah.
You want to hear how this got really wild? So as you know, the police and prosecutors, the state, they seize a vehicle during the course of a case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they seize the vehicle and they hold it. Well, he's acquitted. So we immediately,
Give me my vehicle.
we want
back.
the truck, we want the car back. The towing yard gives him a bill, says we're not returning the vehicle unless you pay the tow fee, which was, or the storage fee, which was something like, it was tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh my gosh. Can they do that?
Well, so we file a motion. We're like, you can't do it. You got to get
He
it
was
back.
acquitted. He
Right.
was, which means he was innocent.
And the judge ordered the tow company, the storage yard, to give the truck back or give the vehicle back. The storage company claimed that they weren't, that this is their contract. It doesn't have anything to do with that. They're allowed to charge a storage fee.
But he didn't keep the vehicle there. The government put it
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah, that's why they've made some changes to these forfeiture laws because it was crazy what they were doing to people. Like,
Yes.
they could just take your property, even if they didn't charge you with a crime formally. In this case, they did charge them with a crime, but they could take your property and then they would forfeiture it and say anything related. So people, they just forfeit people's cars and livelihoods.
And they would do it in a way where some people, they would say, well, to get your car back, you got to buy it back for $5,000. They're like, well, they don't have $5,000.
Yeah.
And the car to them is priceless, but on the market, it may only be worth a couple grand. Right.
And they needed to go to work and
go to work
their
and
families
go to school. Right.
and all kinds of other stuff.
Right.
That's crazy. That's a crazy case. All right. What about some other cases? You had Um,
Can I tell you about the seat switching case?
you can tell me about whatever
It's one
you
of my
want.
favorite
Yes,
one of my
yeah.
favorite cases
Yeah.
because visual imagery is so important. Okay, so this was the case about switching seats
Okay.
and the cousin that didn't come through.
Wow.
Every case should have an Encyclopedia Brown. Remember him, Encyclopedia Brown?
Yeah.
Should have like an Encyclopedia Brown like way to describe the case, right? So this was switching seats. I kept doing this the whole jury selection.
So you're putting your hands, like, for those who are listening, the switcheroo.
Kept trying to show like right to left, left to right. So this was a case, and visual imagery is so important. Okay. This is a case in which these two very attractive ladies, both cousins, are out on the town in downtown Rochester. And the police go to pull this vehicle over. And the vehicle, as you know, police usually when they pull a vehicle over, they try to pull behind the vehicle, right? They try to pull all the way behind it so they can see, direct on, right? So the vehicles are not, they're right in line. And as the officer's pulling the vehicle over, the vehicle kind of comes to like stops, big SUV kind of stops. And
In the side of the road, or where was it?
On the side of the road,
Yeah.
where it stops, but it doesn't continue to pull forward, so the officer can't pull all the way in flush behind the vehicle.
Why not? What do you mean?
Well, so the officer is like, let's say they're perpendicular. So the
Yeah.
officer sees the vehicle, perpendicular. The vehicle takes a left. The officer and the officer turns the signal on, and as the other vehicles pull over, the vehicle is pulling forward. And then the officer is expecting the vehicle to pull more forward to pull all the way in behind.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And the vehicle that my client is in does not pull all the way forward, just pulls forward a little bit. So the officer's vehicle is now at an angle. So the officer has to try to move his vehicle to get more behind the suspect vehicle. And so he has to kind of back up and then turn his spotlight more into the interior of the vehicle and try to move it again. So he's trying to get in better position. He gets out, approaches, and there's my client in the driver's seat. And he's talking to my client in the driver's seat, and she's, oh yeah, I drank, and I did this, and I did that, and we were out, and who are you? That's my cousin, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Ultimately, they have her end up taking a PBT, field sobriety test, have her take a PBT, and she ends up, which is a preliminary breath test.
Yeah.
And
Did she blow over?
yeah, oh yeah, she blows over. And then she's expecting her cousin. We start getting ready for the case. And I'm thinking like, it's a DUI. We got to go through the usual DUI stuff, right?
Yeah.
Challenge to stop. We got to figure out the field sobriety test, how'd the officer do, and, kind of go through how'd the speech sound and the odor of alcohol and all that. And then in the middle of our getting ready for the case, we learn that our client's position said she and the passenger, who's her cousin, had switched seats during the traffic stop, that the cousin was actually driving.
So they said the cousin was driving, and while the officer was like backing up or whatever,
Was trying to reposition his vehicle.
they swapped.
That they had swapped.
They did the fire drill.
Correct. They did the,
Yeah. So
and I kept doing that in the whole trial. So I'm like, really? So we looked, John, we took the video from the officer's car, and we kept on trying to look. And sure enough, we looked, and you could see in the vehicle, if you focused and changed the speed of the way the vehicle was, the video, you could see movement that absolutely looked like and confirmed that there was movement like in the front passenger seat.
from switching
Yes.
him around.
And the officer's
let
like,
me
oh
ask you
no,
this.
that didn't happen. And then we played the video, and I said, well, look at this. I said, so look at the video. And I said, so he goes, do you see it? And he goes, no. So let me slow down.
No.
No.
But
So do you
wait.
see it now? Let me slow it down to a quarter speed. Okay.
Do you
And let
see
me
it
put
now?
a circle there. And then as it's all playing out for the jury, said, let me slow it down again and put a circle around it. And he goes, oh yeah, now I see it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a couple
Live,
questions.
baby.
Yeah.
That was no glove experiment.
That was live.
That wasn't a try the glove on.
That's right. Wow. So let me ask you, first of all, why in the world, if she was drunk, would she switch into the driver's seat?
trying to cover for her cousin because her cousin was a minor.
Oh.
And her cousin had a pending case, and her cousin was on probation.
Now that's a very good explanation, because I'm sure the jury was thinking the same thing.
And the cousin came to court and did not testify for my client.
What? The cousin was a traitor?
Testified
a Benedict
against
Arnold?
and said that she was in the passenger seat. Yep. Cousin came in and said, nope, I wasn't driving. That's ridiculous. And we crossed her on a bunch of different things and about, And
so
she had lied to the police about her age. If I recall correctly, again, she hadn't been truthful with the police about her age and stuff like
wow.
that.
So the cousin, Benedict Arnold, was a traitor to...
Benedict Sally.
Yeah, Benedict Sally. And so what ended up happening?
So the jury ended up acquitting.
Wow.
And this is something that I never forgot. The power of visual imagery, right? So when you talk, and like you, I go around and do, like, when I have a case coming up for trial, I do like kind of daily coffee shop, inline grocery store, whatever.
Exactly. What do you think about this?
What do you think about this? What are your thoughts about that? Just like little focus groups. They're not like a traditional, but
right.
What do you think? And we did kind of a focus group in our office about this seat switching concept and what we thought. And so as we started to, and it was key for us, there were people that had dealt with young people, and there are people who dealt with, and they believed that young people would do something like that without really thinking.
Yeah, right.
Like, and then just kind of try to sort it out later.
I did really stupid shit when I was young.
Tell us about it, John.
Oh, God, that's a different
John
show.
Gone Wild.
Yeah, that's my psychiatrist's couch gone wild or something.
Listen, you want to know how I know? Why don't I know that you're telling the truth? Because I think you're a great guy. You're very genuine. But I've never seen anybody in an ad actually run with what I'm sure was a really nice suit and really nice shoes, jump into a pool and then have kids. Oh, not that, Marco.
Nah, yeah, that was thanks. I got to give a shout out to Mukwendo, who is the dedicated audio visual marketing guru who's here with us today, who's came up with that idea. But
so here's how visual imagery was so important. Okay, because as I was talking to the jury, I kept realizing that as I did this, and as I asked
and as
them,
you put your hands,
my hands crossing over one another.
So you just kept doing that
kept
the whole trial?
Showing the hand like crossing over, like switching seats, crossing over. Mm-hmm. Is there room to do it? Can you envision? I didn't ask any jurors to commit that that's what happened because the judge wouldn't let me get away with that. But I did ask them, look, can you at least? This is what we say happened. Can you at least be open to that as a defense? Can you at least be open to the idea that the driver, and I didn't use my hands in that way, jumped into the passenger seat, and the passenger then crawled over and jumped into the driver's seat and switched seats. I just want to know if you can be open to that as a possibility, so there are no preconceived notions. Now remember, when we're talking about these issues, I am at that moment. You can't. Jurors can't. There's no or don't or can't, right? That's not part of the visual imagery. If I ask you right now, John, do not under any circumstance, don't think of a shiny red fire truck with all the chrome next to the door and a tall ladder coming out of the back with the Dalmatian in the front seat. Don't picture that, okay? Don't picture that with sirens and all shined up. The word don't is not an active word.
Right.
But when you start asking people the visual imagery, and then we told them the story of what happened and how the cousin betrayed her and how she was trying to they were like sisters, and she was trying to take the heat for the cousin and just hadn't thought it through. And then the cousin who was actually betraying her, and we show you, can you leave room for that and show you how it was possible? Because in this unique case, with the way that the police car was positioned and the way that the spotlight wasn't able to get right into the back seat in the interior of the car normally, I said, can you just be open to that as a possibility? Then we showed them every single thing that happened. The cousin ended up testifying. I demolished her on the stand, just took a big bite out of her leg. And then, and then the other, our client ended up testifying, and she did extremely well. And it all just made perfect sense. It was,
wow. That's a tough case. 'Cause I mean, when you first say, you tell me that defense, I say that sounds a little far-fetched.
Of course.
To me. I don't know if I believe that, but now you talk through it. Okay, I can totally see that happening.
Right.
And I think the video evidence was probably very compelling as well.
So
right?
great. So John, you've tried a lot of cases. We don't often have the kind of like the Matlock, type moments.
Yeah.
We don't have those moments where, you got the gotcha, right? But that video,
Was the gotcha.
when we played it at full speed, oh no, then you slowed it down. Nah, I still don't see anything yet. Well, let me slow it down even more, and then let me put a little red circle around it. And he goes, oh yeah, now I see it.
That is amazing. Were you like, yes? Like you broke the guy, right? I mean, essentially, you got the admission.
So I know we're supposed to be politically correct these days, right? But as I'm standing there right in front of the podium, as he says that, you can hear this from underneath the wooden, the wooden lectern.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh yeah, you could. I'm a trial junkie. I love that stuff, and
Yeah.
so when some of the stuff that when it comes together, and you have one of those moments,
Oh man,
I
it's
loved it.
insane when it all comes together. It is
Yes.
so great. And at the other end, it's so deflating if something happens
I
to on the other side. Your whole case goes down in flames in front of you. So it's like the highs and lows of
I've
trial,
had that
man.
moment too, man. I've had that moment. I've had those moments. I had one where we prepped our client. The case was entirely teed up. It was perfect. We had everything was teed up beautifully, and our client takes the stand, and let's just say that they're still trying to put the fire out in the seat where she was testifying.
Oh my
it was,
gosh.
It was less than pretty.
Oh, but hey, that's part of the
Right.
practice, right? All right, we got time for one more case gone wild. What do you want to talk about? There was some type of a beautiful dish.
An heirloom
that
dish.
You have an heirloom dish.
Yes.
We love nice dishes. So
Okay, so this is also a wild case. Remember during COVID, during shelter in place, people who were trying to date had nowhere to go. You couldn't go to a coffee shop or to a restaurant on a first date. So you had to meet somewhere. Where do you meet? So this couple ends up meeting at my client's house, right?
this is like a first date?
First date.
Okay. From like Bumble or
No.
Tinder or something?
I don't know. I don't remember how
All
they
right,
met.
okay.
But it's 2020, so election controversy is
wow.
hot. There are like three things you never talk about on a date, right? Or in company.
Religion, politics, and what's the last one?
And remember the first two.
That's right. That's right.
So they get into a discussion about politics, and they are as on opposite sides of the spectrum as is possible.
Yeah.
They get into a huge argument, crazy argument. She ends up leaving. My client's like, get out of the house. He's like, get out of the house. Tells her,
It's
leave,
his
leave.
house? Or
His
what?
house. His house. Says,
So
leave,
they
leave,
have a
leave.
date. She's at his house. Things are going good.
And then they talk about the election.
Oh, no.
And she has a position that is, that election denial is, insane and offensive. And he's on the other end of the spectrum, and he gets offended, and his family is very involved in politics.
no.
And so he's worked up and tells her to leave, and she leaves, and she forgets her heirloom dish. Now, I've seen what I think look like heirloom dishes. This looked like if it was a brand heirloom, that would make more sense to me than an actual like artifact handed down from ancestors.
Yeah, yeah.
But hey, you never know, right? I mean, maybe it's
So
something.
what
that
is
was-
this, like a crock pot or
Yeah,
something? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like a got a casserole or a dessert in it or something.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And she had brought it over.
Brought
to
it
bake.
over.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
So
So what happened?
So she wants her dish, and she's calling him to get her dish back, and he's like, stop calling me, leave me alone. I don't want to hear from you.
City
Hanging
is
up,
this in?
Royal Oak.
Okay.
Hang up. I don't want to hear from you. And then she
leave
comes
me
to the
alone.
door. If I recall correctly, she comes to the door and he's like, "Go away," and then she has a friend come. He goes and he puts the dish like on the front lawn, separate between the street and the sidewalk. So there's a street, then there's like the
little
the
patch of grass.
Right,
thing,
patch of grass, and then the sidewalk, and then his front lawn, then his house.
Yeah.
He puts the dish on the patch of grass between the street and the sidewalk.
Okay.
And he comes in, and then she is, and she has a friend come over and wants the dish, and she has this other friend joining her to come into the door and get the fish. He's like, "Go away, guy, go, get out of here, get out of here." And he's feeling like intimidated. He's thinking that she's got people coming and going to gang up and try to, get
Break
into
in
his
house or
yeah,
something,
for this dish. He's yelling, if I recall correctly, that the dish is, he doesn't have it. She can, go to H, things like that. Okay. And I'm paraphrasing, but to kind of give you the story.
Yeah.
The dish is outside.
Oh my God.
She's down the street. They call the police. So she calls the police for the dish, right?
No way.
Yeah. And the police show up. Now this officer doesn't come in. She's got a uniform. She's in uniform. But she doesn't come in with her, doesn't park right in front of the house. She doesn't turn on any emergency lights or flashers. None of that.
Yeah.
None of that. And she parks down the street. Okay. And doesn't have her
police?
Yeah.
Oh.
Doesn't have her in-car camera on for some reason. Now, the surest way to identify yourself as a police officer is put on the flashers, right?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't do it. Park in front of the house. Doesn't do it. Parks down the street. She walks up and she walks up to the front door, walks up the doorstep, the step, walks onto the porch, and rings the bell, knocks on the door, ring the bell again, and doesn't identify herself as the police, right? So he thinks, so a light comes on, and he believes that they're just, to the average person, they're back again, like to harass him. Now, this is where things get really screwy. There's a little tiny diamond in the door, like a diamond window to look out, like a lookout window.
Yeah.
The light comes on inside the front porch light, or the front little vestibule light comes on. And then he's like, says, "Go away." No, go away. I don't care. Why are you here? And she then walks off. She goes, "It's the police." That was after they had some verbal exchange. She then walks up, turns her back to the front door, walks down the step, right? Then walks onto the front walkway and is standing there, and then walks on the front. She says, "He pointed a gun at me."
The police officer says that?
Says that to other officers over the radio. And it's almost like
how did he point a gun?
Like almost like you want to rewind, go, what? Let me see that again. And like, you don't see a gun, you don't hear a threat, you don't see the shadow of a gun, you don't see anything that appears to a gun, you don't hear a threat, you don't hear her say on the front porch, like, "Put the gun down," or "Why'd you do that?" You don't see her take out a gun. She turns her back to the front door. She walks down the steps. She then walks away from the house. She then stands in the front lawn. She's standing there exposed. And she then says, "He wants her dish back." That's what you yell? According to you, a guy just aimed a rifle at you through the door, and you yell, "She just wants her dish back."
Oh my God.
Then she turns around and walks away, again, with her back to the house, walks down to the front door, or the front side, the front sidewalk, tells the two ladies, tells them, the date and her friend, "Go wait in your car." Doesn't say take cover or hide or duck. Doesn't pull out her gun. Goes to her car. That's it. Now, I mean, if there's a manual on how can you tell whether an officer was threatened with a gun, these are the things to look for. She didn't check any of those boxes. She didn't take cover, didn't pull her gun, didn't pull her flashlight, didn't say drop the gun. She then turned her back to the front door, didn't take cover behind the front porch. She didn't yell to the two girls like, take cover and protect yourself. She doesn't, yell like gun, 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 right? She doesn't like get on a knee. She doesn't take her gun out. She doesn't get on the sidewalk and then hold the gun to the front door. Doesn't do any of that. She reacts like you would react if you had a sour exchange with somebody who, was in the house.
Right. So what ended up happening?
So they then, now you can imagine in this day and age, when an officer says like, he pointed a gun at me.
Right.
I mean,
SWAT team
stuff. Guys with their hats on backwards, and guys coming in with their, the Velcro and,
Wow.
and they got their shields and they've got guns and they're stationed up in other places around the block around the guy's house. They're like,
this guy's thinking over
come
a dish?
out. Over a dish. The whole thing's over a dish. And ultimately he gets charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and felony firearm, which is, again, this is a case that would mandate that he would go to prison for 2 years minimally.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, this is a guy who has no prior record. He's a legitimate, lawful gun owner, and we end up we tried the case. So the situation with his bond was awful. So this was right around the holidays, right around the New Year, and he wasn't able. New Year. It was New Year or Thanksgiving, but one of the holidays where courts are closed.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to, we want to do his arraignment, and we arraign him, and the courts set a bond. And the bond, he's got to post a cash, he's got to pay money to post a bond. So his family's like, we'll take a check, we'll transfer money, we'll wire money into the sheriff's department account. Where do we send the money? You can't send money to the sheriff's department. You can't wire the money. Okay, we will get a check. The jail doesn't, they don't take a check. They'll come in. Well, banks are closed. How do they make this happen? They had to go hire a bail bondsman. So they actually ended up losing, because, the money I don't know if your listeners know, but the money that you pay a bail bondsman as the fee to post a bond, that money is gone. Like that's the bail bondsman's fee. So if you had 10 grand and gave it to the court as 10%, for example, okay, they would, if it's 100,000 of the bond, and you have to post you could post 100,000, which they could. They had no way to post 100,000. If it's 100,000 on the bond and you go to a bail bondsman, you give the bail bondsman 10,000 as the bail bondsman's fee, and that money's gone. Like that's the fee.
No.
So he got caught in that loophole. So we end up trying the case. Now this is really fascinating to us. The client's an engineer. He's got an engineering mind. His father's an engineering mind. So we're convinced that the dynamics and the measurements and that it just wouldn't fit. Like that it's not possible for a gun to fit in the way that she described him standing in this little vestibule, and that he had pulled a gun up. Because remember, we're claiming, the claim is, according to her, that he'd held the gun like shoulder height and aimed it with his hand on the at
that little window.
Correct. And she's claiming that happened. So part of it is like, this is impossible. We're trying to literally take a burden on in a way to try to demonstrate how it's not possible.
Right.
Well, we focus group the case, and the focus group looks at we first put on the state's case, and they're like, no, not guilty. No way. Too many questions, too many doubts. No way. Right. We start introducing our evidence, including stuff that we had that would show like a 3D mapping, 3D imaging from the companies that do 3D imaging for real estate. Like you want to sell your house and you can see the 360, pretty accurate view of your house. So we were preparing for all that, and we showed the focus group that, and they're like, wait, why are you doing that? Why are you looking at any of that stuff? That's now making it look brighter and making it look like there's more room and making it look like there's more to do.
Wow.
So we were like, scrap all of that.
Yeah.
We just went entirely off of the state's case, and the jury was out a half an hour, maybe. I mean, a half an hour.
Guilty.
Not guilty. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. So what is up with this officer? Do you think she's just mistaken or what? Like, what in the world? I mean, okay.
No,
yeah.
she left the force, then joined another force. Then she had a podcast, and then she was talking about
Gosh.
she had
I don't listen to that podcast.
No, neither do I. She had it wasn't in her.
All right, I get it. I wonder if I'll leave our listeners with this story of another Jon Marko personal life story gone wild. But I used to live in Royal Oak, and we had Halloween, and I had my little brother and my little niece, Lily, over, and we carved pumpkins. And my niece isn't the best artist. She did the best that she could, and she was trying to make a dinosaur, and it looked silly. And I carved like a normal jack-o'-lantern, and my brother carved like a normal jack-o'-lantern. So we put these out with the little candles in it because it was Halloween in Royal Oak, and I had a house right on East Lincoln, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, these little kids were coming up, and we were excited, and we're giving candy to these little kids. The police come up to my door, and I'll tell you, the Royal Oak police are horrible. And I'm sorry if you're a Royal Oak lover of police out there, but they're fucking horrible. Okay, I've had all kinds of cases and problems with them, but the Royal Oak police, it was a female officer, comes up and says, "You need to take that pumpkin down." And I said, "What?" She goes, "We got a complaint that it looks like a phallus, a penis." And I said, "It's a dinosaur. My niece just carved it. Are you going to take my niece to jail? What are we living in? Fascist Germany, like 1942? Like, are you kidding me? Like, how are you going to tell me that I can't have a pumpkin?" I said, it's a dinosaur. My niece carved it. If you want to interrogate my niece, I don't think that's appropriate. I think that could be traumatic for a young kid. And I said, and even if I had a penis pumpkin on my porch, it's my constitutional right as an American to have any type of pumpkin that I want. But that was one of my run-ins with the Royal Oak Police. I just thought, how ridiculous
trick-or-treating at the Marko house must be very interesting with the phallus.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that's so bizarre about that. So, I get that, the police have a responsibility, but I mean, calling somebody to say, like, you should take that pumpkin down, like, that's not your job.
Right.
Like, your job is to keep the peace. You know what I mean?
And keep it safe.
And if something offends your sensibilities, or you think, that's one of the things. It's like, that's, again, I'm not one of those, like, people I'm not going to, begin like the police bashing. But there are officers that just seem
ridiculous.
To just
and look,
not
I
know
don't
their
want to
limits.
be seen as bashing police. I love police. The Grosse Pointe police are the best police that I've ever experienced. I have friends that are police. I represent police. I've represented a lot of officers and corrections officers and all that stuff in my job. But don't come to my house, Royal Oak Police, because my niece isn't a good artist in carving a dinosaur pumpkin.
And one of the things that I
don't threaten
know
me.
about you is you're not one of those guys who's going to respond to a threat.
No,
like you, and I'm not suggesting that you would ever have taken it down, but if somebody just walked up and said, "Hey, that could be misinterpreted," and or someone that I know, a little kid thought it was something else.
My daughter
thought it was something. What is it? Like, that's a way to approach somebody like you.
Yeah,
I know just from knowing you that the wrong way to approach you is to go to Jon Marko and say, "Because I told you so."
Yeah.
Because hey, Jon Marko, I told you so is going to get the, really? Well.
I went and got the biggest, most illuminating candle I could find and put it right in that pumpkin.
I could only imagine. Imagine.
So anyways, all right, that's our story. We just lost all the Royal Oak Police as listeners. Hopefully, that's okay. But all right, Neil, you're the man.
I don't know about that, but it was great. It was great to be here.
It was great to have you, and you're awesome. Neil Rockind, check out his podcast. Like I said, what is it called? Killer Cross, right?
Killer Cross Examination.
Killer Cross Examination for attorneys. It's amazing. Is it for other people too?
Yeah, it's entertaining. I've had some. Listen, I've been fortunate and blessed to have some of the best lawyers in the country, some household names. And they've been, guys from Tom Mesereau to Alan Dershowitz, F. Lee Bailey, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And, Marco Mera and our Jon Marko was one of my guests.
Thanks, brother.
So I've had some of the best in the country.
Much love. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's great.
All right, everybody. That was another great episode of Cases Gone Wild. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, please share it with your friends and family. Give us thumbs up. If you or someone you know needs help, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll get you in touch with Neil Rockind or anybody else who can help you with your problems. It's markolaw.com, markolaw.com, or give us a call, 833-MARKO-LAW. Until next time, in 2 weeks, we'll see you again on another Cases Gone Wild.